Well, continuity. When is a function continuous at a point x equals a? What you need to figure out when is something continuous in anything. It's when it keeps going. In an equation, in a function, a continuous function is that if you graph it, you never have to lift up your pencil to graph it. There's 3 rules to tell if a function is continuous at such any point where x equals a. If n is a constant, there are 3 rules that have to be equal to each other, n, for it to be continuous at that point. The limit as x approaches that point from the left has to equal to it. The limit as x approaches from the right has to be equal to it. And at that point, it has to be equal to it. Which saying is, if x equals 3 and 3 equals 2, we have our graph right here. We're saying x equals 3 and it's equal to 2. So f of 3 equals 2. It says that from the left, it has to, whatever it's doing over here, has to come to 2. And at the right, has to go to 2. That is what continuity is, and that is when it is function. These are the 3 things that have to coincide for it to be a function there. Now, talking about in terms of limits, these are the terms of limits of what we're talking about, but there's also 3 other times when it's not. There's a couple times when it's not continuous. This is what's called a jump, piecewise functions. That's when it comes from one way and then it stops at one point to go to another way. As you can see, you have to, when you draw this, you have to lift up your pencil off the paper and keep going. Over here is what we call a hole. There's a hole in the point somewhere else, which is also a piecewise function, basically saying, let's say this is basically y equals x everywhere except for x equals when x does not equal 2 and at 2 it equals 4. But this is the jump. I have to do this, lift up my paper, drop the ball here, and then go back down. This is a continuous function. I can keep going and going. A cusp, I can do this. I can keep going. However, cusps are not differentiable at this point, as we learned. Just a little reminder. These are the 3 types of limits that there are. Okay, these are 2 types of continuity that do not work. And remember, these are your 3 rules. Has to approach it from the left, the right, and it has to equal to it, all the same constant. If not, the point is not continuous at the point.
Yeah.